they're doing a great job. One, because they're governing, they're authentic, results-oriented, independent voices for their communities. And people see that. So we're going to continue to make sure we get the message out to make sure that folks remember what's at stake this cycle, and remember how critical it is that they use their voice and they vote.
And we know that maintaining the Senate was top of mind for President Joe Biden when he decided to step down as well as a student of the Senate. You're also the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. You're leading the party's high-stakes strategic efforts and the fundraising efforts as well. That's something you don't want to lose steam on after this. They've been historic, and also sharing with you that last night, following Tim Walz's keynote speech, was the best grassroots fundraising day of the Democratic National Convention so far. So the hall for fundraising was even bigger than when the Obamas spoke.
You know, we have seen incredible support since Kamala Harris announced her candidacy. We had our largest online fundraising day for the DCCC, the campaign committee that I lead to help us take back the House. We've seen strong fundraising for our candidates across the country. People are energized. They know that we can take back the House. They know this is such an critically important election, and they know that we all have to come together and do everything that we can to make sure we win. And folks are stepping up. You can see the energy and enthusiasm every day in this venue right here in Chicago, but go anywhere in the country, more volunteers turning out, people registering to vote. People are energized, excited, and that's going to make all the difference in November.
When Jay mentioned the wearing white, you sort of pointed to your own outfit and said, look, I am wearing white. Tell me about that decision, especially noting the Washington delegation seems to have had a color theme every day.
Well, the Washington delegation has their sparkly cowboy hats on out there, but white, you've seen actually women on the floor of the House wearing white is really has shown our unity as women, that we're standing up for women's rights, for the opportunities for women. And obviously we're going to be here with Vice President Harris as she accepts the nomination, because we want to stand in unity and support her as she becomes the next president of the United States and the first woman to be president of the United States.
I mean, frankly, women-led organizations, women supporting women is a theme I have really heard interwoven from almost everyone I've talked to here this week. Susan Deldene, thank you so much for being here with me today. I so appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Of course. All right, we have a lot more coverage ahead here for today's meetings on the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Stick with us.
Several suspects.
All these kinds of things.
That could have slipped through the cracks. Her last hours on the service were horrific.
Police will find out what happened.
And it seemed the hunt for a killer only.
Get ready, America, every Friday. The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff. Yes. Great stuff. Friday at GMS. You're gonna love it.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than America's #1 most watched news service across all of television. They both want the ABC News presidential debate, moderated by David Warren and TV's Tuesday, September 10th, live on ABC and streaming on ABC News Live, Hulu, and Disney+. The ABC News presidential debate.
We pull each other up. We draw strength from our victories, and we learn from our mistakes. But we keep our eyes fixed on that distant horizon, knowing that Providence is with us, and that we are surely blessed to be citizens of the greatest nation on earth. I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
That, of course, was incumbent President Barack Obama accepting his party's nomination for re-election during the 2012 Democratic National Convention. You are looking live, though, down on the floor. As I mentioned, this is to Pink doing her sound check. As everyone knows here, Obama and his Vice President Joe Biden went on to win re-election later that year, defeating Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney and his running mate, Paul Ryan. I have to say, Pink is doing an awfully long sound check down there to everyone's pleasure. Everyone's quite enjoying it. In fact, people are clapping as if they're having their own personal concert down there on the floor. It's really exciting. This is going to be quite a performance. There you see her. You, of course, are watching ABC News Live special coverage of Day 4 of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago. I'm now with Reagan Arkansas colleague and former government official Sarah Isker, as well as Democratic commentator and former Obama campaign foreign policy advisor David Shakuri. Thank you both for being here with us. Look, David, we've seen protests against Israel's war in Gaza throughout the week.
Yes, there are protests, but coming to Chicago, we all thought that it would be chosen by protests, that there would be demonstrations all around the United Center, and I haven't really seen that. I've seen some pretty small protests, much smaller than we expected. Certainly the issue of Gaza and the issue of trying to accomplish a ceasefire are prominent during this convention, and I expect Kamala will discuss them. And I think Kamala and Kamala are doing their best to try to thread the needle here, to push for a ceasefire, which is what is best for the people of Gaza and for Israel, and best for the United States, but also be respectful of the very difficult situation there, of the tragedy of October 7th, of the fact that there are still hostages. Whether a Palestinian American were to speak or not, I don't know if that's on the program now for tonight, but I do think it would be great if the right person, an elected official, a Palestinian American, were to speak to kind of give voice to the issues. But President Biden has been very strong on pushing for a ceasefire. He talked about it during his speech at the convention. He said we're closer than we have been since October 7th to getting a ceasefire, and I think it's not only top of mind important to the Biden administration and President Biden, but it's important to the Harris campaign, and I do think that Kamala Harris will benefit if there's a ceasefire. She doesn't want us to go back into the fall with protests in universities around the country.
And it's not just about a ceasefire here as well. It's also about getting the hostages returned, and we certainly don't want to overlook that moment either. And certainly she would benefit if the talks were going well, but we have heard that time and time again, and until it's done, it's not. Sarah Isker, I'm really curious to get your thoughts here on what's going on with RFK Jr. According to some recent polling, Vice President Harris leads Donald Trump by about 3% in that polls within the margin of error, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. coming in about 5%. And then among RFK Jr. supporters, about 32% of them say that Harris is actually their second choice. So if RFK Jr. does in fact drop out as expected, maybe as soon as tomorrow, do you think that Harris actually has a chance at gaining those supporters? Or, Sarah, do you think that perhaps a lot of his supporters sort of left him when she came to the top of the ticket? I'm just curious as to your thoughts.
This is the mixed-up part about third-party candidates. There's this assumption that if RFK endorses Donald Trump, that all of those 5% of voters move to Donald Trump. But maybe the better comparison here is primaries, where For instance, Bernie Sanders dropped out. Hillary Clinton didn't get all those supporters in 2016, and so Donald Trump got quite a few of them. When Marco Rubio dropped out, Ted Cruz didn't automatically get all those supporters. Donald Trump got some of those as well. With third-party candidates, they were well aware that Donald Trump and Biden or Harris were running when they decided to say they were supporting RFK. So what I actually think you'll find is some of those supporters will go to each candidate, but a lot of them simply aren't going to vote, or they will leave the presidential slot blank, which is why they wanted a third-party candidate in the first place.
Oh, wow. All right. That is interesting. Sarah and David Frey, thank you both for being here with us. All right. We have a lot more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where we were just watching Pink do her sound check on the floor, and there were so many people just standing around clapping. It was quite a moment. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The stories that shape your world, that shape your life. Dramatic, stunning, empowering, jaw-dropping. The most powerful stories of our time. Nightline on right after Channel and streaming on Hulu.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw. We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City, getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights wherever you stream your news. Only on ABC News Live. Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories. Start Here.
That's a part of the story that you didn't see coming.
Make it your daily first listen wherever you get your podcasts. Whenever news breaks.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this town.
From Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike.
trillion of investments from companies like PepsiCo and Espresso without the reason from some of the back before. And then the truth of the matter is that whatever progress has been made there, it will certainly take time for us to see the fruits of that labor. So whether or not we'll see that in the next couple of years.
And time, frankly, is something that these candidates do not have, and frankly, neither do these immigrant families. Let's talk a little bit about some of these recent claims that you've been diving deep in. There's just a lot of nuance to some of these border crossing claims. So we know that President Biden said that border crossings dropped 50% after they implemented some new restrictions on asylum in June. I'd like to get your take on that, but also how migrants enforce it in terms of coming through a port of entry, coming legally, but also what does it mean if they're coming through the northern border?
Yeah, and it's a number of about 55% since February restrictions on this side. Basically saying that if migrants come during times when border patrol is overwhelmed and they come in between ports of entry seeking asylum, we will likely deny them unless they have American passports. Now, this is actually very controversial, as we know and reported here on the show, is that ACLU is actually suing the Biden administration hoping to reverse this policy, essentially because of this. Right now, under U.S. laws, no matter where you come from, the northern border, by land, by sea, doesn't matter. Want to seek asylum under U.S. constitutional law. They absolutely can right now. So they're arguing that if this restrictions in place, actually from the right, exercising the right to seek asylum here in the United States.
And you know, Armando, when I talk with voters, you hear so often that they support a legal pathway to citizenship, and that the surge at the border makes it harder for that to happen. I know you had a really powerful and exclusive interview with one of the very first migrants protected from deportation under this new Biden program. Can you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, so on Monday, the Biden administration has taken a few on keeping families together. It's essentially a streamlined process for undocumented spouses and their stepchildren to seek a legal permanent residence, a green card, to become legally here in the country. I spoke with one woman, Cecilia. She's 24. She has been in this country since she was 4 years old. She has a 3-year-old child. She's been married since 2023 to an American citizen. For the very first time in 20 years, she's finally going to be able to work legally. She says that she dreams of having a career in chemistry. She dreams of just not having this fear of deportation. So I think it was a little unexpected that she heard so quickly. She heard a little more than 24 hours the next day, but of course it was welcome news. Amen.
Certainly, Armando, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And clearly, this is an important issue, and it's one that the Harris-Walz ticket is doing much worse in than they would probably like to at this moment in the election. Armando Garcia, thanks for being here with us. All right, we have a lot more special coverage ahead. I actually hope we can pop down on the floor as we're leaving here, because this is really an epic soundtrack that's happening down there from Pink. It's utterly beautiful, and so we will be right back here. You're watching the Democratic National Convention coverage on ABC News Live.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning to catch you up with what happened overnight. We see right here, arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about, the migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
And fun in between.
Check out the data on the 17 polls.
But still in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's number one early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
Is it TV? TV relatives watch the newscast.
We're approaching the gate now. Militants in and through all directions. Vehicle loaded and ready to go. The house is with the flag. Look at your smile. You're proud of it. Great work.
News Tonight with David Podcast. Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To begin and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast armed with 4 Edward R. Murrow awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Marcia.
Something terrible happened to her.
Several suspects.
All these kinds of things.
Shoot for his hair. Good ball injury. But it's still
Edward said, going for a killer.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face, his story. The ABC News presidential debate, moderated by David Moore and Lindsay Davis, Tuesday, September 10th, live on ABC, and streaming on ABC News and Disney Plus. The ABC News presidential debate.
All right, welcome back to ABC National Convention. We, of course, are inside the United Center on this fourth and final day of the convention, where Vice President Kamala Harris is set to officially accept the party's historic presidential nomination. Tonight, Harris will address millions right here in the arena and across this country in her highly anticipated primetime speech. Tonight's theme is For Our Future. The Harris campaign telling ABC News Vice President decided that she is calling a new way forward and will lay out her vision for the country. She'll focus on her middle-class upbringing, her background as a prosecutor, and how her plan for the nation differs greatly from that of her opponent, former President Donald Trump. ABC News joins Sean J. O'Brien joining me now from inside the United Center. He lives during congressional sound checks, right? What are the people that are expected to see on stage tonight? What are the stories that you think we will hear about Kamala Harris, of course, before she takes that stage?
The one encounter that I thought was the most interesting were the 3 women who came on stage. Her goddaughter, her stepdaughter, and then her niece, who she helped raise. I thought that was significant because she's gotten so much pushback and attacks her from the other side of Republicans for not having a child, for example. You have her niece, who she helped raise, Mina Harris. You have the goddaughter, who has helped with her Senate campaign quite a bit. It was very, very involved. And then you have her stepdaughter, who you heard from Kamala Harris, who she speaks to, and one of the most dramatic moments of his speech, actually. He talked about how he thought she was on the phone with maybe a global leader, or maybe there's a campaign issue, but she was really serious on the phone call. It was actually with his daughter. So kind of giving the significance of, even though she has no biological children, she has these children and these people who've been in her life for a long time, and we'll see 3 of them at least on stage tonight.
I've heard so many people say, I relate to the bonus mom role, you know. Jay O'Brien was last night, a police officer who was on Capitol Hill during January 6th, delivered a really passionate speech. What were the takeaways? How does it lend itself to the message that you think you might hear from Harris herself tonight?
Well, it was Democrats leaning into what they say is a threat that Donald Trump poses to democracy. It's still one of the pillars of this campaign. It was something that Joe Biden repeated a lot of the campaign trail. We expect Kamala Harris to mention tonight. There was this one telling moment even before that officer operated without took the stage, which was they put Donald Trump's criminal charges as they relate to January 6th up on the street there. A shooter erupted in the venue here, and then there were chants of lock him up, lock him up, lock him up. It's a demonstration of the fact that Democrats believe that Donald Trump is A, a threat to democracy, and B, believe that it's a winning issue with voters. Again, that was a tentpole of Joe Biden's campaign. You do expect Kamala Harris to bring that up as well, because you've heard Democrats say they want to hear her not just introduce herself to the American people, which we expect her to do, but also is so much different than Donald Trump's.
Certainly, all right.
Zareen and Jay, our thanks to both of you. And we have a lot more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. It could be a historic night here in Chicago, and one that everyone here is certainly ready for. We'll be right back.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Wood. Several suspects.
Actually, violent scene evidence that could have slipped through the cracks.
Her last hours on the service were horrific.
This beautiful girl. Police will find out what happened.
At wit's end, the hunt for a killer, only on Hulu.
Get ready, America, every Friday. The hottest trends, styles, and must-have. What's the right stuff to buy right now? I really love that. It's time to buy the right stuff. Yes! And save big time, too. The right stuff. Fridays on GMA. You're gonna love it.
Wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Streaming free on ABC News Live. What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
An operation to capture ISIS fighters. We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 different directions. So we have a couple loaded and ready to go. The house is destroyed, but the flag, there's not a tear in, not a tear in. How important is this label right here, Made in USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of this.
I love it.
Wait, look.
Hi.
Where are you? Where are you? David. Ismail? David. Yes. I'm David York. I know you are. You do. Very nice.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast. They both want to be your next president. Now finally, Kamala Harris.
Do we believe in the promise of America?
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Hosting this historic. The ABC News presidential debate, moderated by David Moore and Lindsay Gales, Tuesday, September 10th, live on ABC and streaming on ABC News Live, Hulu, and Disney+. The ABC News presidential debate.
All right, this is ABC News Live, continuing coverage of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago. Certainly everybody's ready for another exciting night. Joining me right now is Democratic Congresswoman from Delaware, Lisa Warren Rochester. Congresswoman, thank you for being here with us.
It is an honor and exciting to be here with you at our Democratic Convention.
Absolutely. I feel like I've seen you everywhere. You've been on TV a lot. You've been on the stage as well. You were one of the people delivering a speech last night at the convention floor. And I'm really going to play just a quick moment to listen together.
Ladies and gentlemen, right home is forward. Madam President Kamala Harris. Are you ready for White House? Are you ready to fight for our freedom? Are you ready to flip the house, protect the Senate, and bring Kamala to the White House?
You're pumped up.
To wear something that was fire, you know, and I you can feel the joy and the excitement and the energy in this room, and it's been, you know, like that. It's just ramping up, and up, and I'm just so excited to get us across the finish line first. So, really excited.
So there's a lot to be done. And one thing that struck me about your speech, though, was you talked about this bright joy, but then you kind of attached some tangible things to it.
Yes.
You talked about black and brown entrepreneurs having opportunities in their community. You talked about affordable housing. What are those the two issues that you chose to highlight in that moment? Is that something you're hearing from your constituents?
Well, I will tell you, I mean, we hear, number one, about the economy, and making sure, as Kamala says, that people cannot just, you know, get by, but to get ahead. And so that focus on strengthening our communities, strengthening our small businesses is really important, but also things like affordable housing, making sure that while we're having the call for consideration right now, Kamala Harris, this group, we don't want to see it for everybody. And so as we're going through, hearing from the constituents, hearing from the American people, it is a part of this opportunity economy that she focuses on. Instead of just thinking the top down, maybe it trickles, maybe, we're talking about all of us, not just getting by, but getting ahead.
And in terms of this getting ahead, you also have your eyes on a Senate seat. And as you're running for that Senate seat, we know how important keeping the Senate is to Democrats. We know you're still going a lot of efforts to try to flip the House as well. But what are you hearing from your constituents about the policies that you're hearing, but also sort of the lack of details in the policy?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because for us, we've got actual tangible things that have been accomplished. I mean, we have already done the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and roads and bridges, which I talked about in my speech, are being built this very moment. What I didn't have time to say in that speech was to talk about the breakthrough of broadband internet extended across this country. We actually have details. We're not just have the details, we're already doing these things. And so for us, I see that the future is what Kamala is really focused on. The future, freedom, and also bringing back equality. And that's really what's exciting about this movement and what's exciting about the campaign. I've been really blessed to work with her on so many things, but even coming in to Congress, we came in at the same time in 2016 together. Then in 2020, when Joe Biden was making his selection, that first very important decision to be vice president, I was one of the 4 people on the VP selection committee. So I got to see her just completely shine. Even at that time, she was ready. He said, I want somebody that's ready on day one. And so she's going to tonight, I think, share more about her qualifications. She's going to share tonight about the things that she's been able to deliver not just for California, but for the country. And I think you're going to see an incredible vision for the future where we fight for our freedoms.
And I think that is what a lot of people on board from the right to see. They just sort of want a few more details. And a lot of people say that they think they like her, and they want to get behind her policy, but they don't know exactly how she will finish them, if she'll have to follow through, and so I think they're waiting for some details there. Another thing I keep hearing this week is about the general support of women.
Because conventions, the party, this is the convening of us as Democrats, and what's really special is that she's been able to not just bring Democrats, but Republicans and independents who you've seen on that stage.
Yeah.
And what people are tapping into is, number one, she's had major accomplishments already. She's a person who's talking about policies that have actually implemented them. Even infrastructure, we heard for years. I've served under both presidents, President Trump and President Biden. I've heard talk about things, but under the Biden-Harris administration, they've done the things. And so the vision where what Kamala's talking about is taking it even higher. She's got a track record. We've got confidence in her because she's already delivered. And so what you will hear in a convention is, what are our values? Where do we see the future? You will have an opportunity. She's on the road. She's got these next 75 days. She is on the road with Tim Walz, who has also delivered as a governor. He's governed. He's served. And so what is exciting to me about this place is we're letting people know we are unified, not just as Democrats, but as Americans, and that she's already accomplished things, but the vision, what I said in my speech is that it's limitless. America is limitless, and that's really what this is about.
So are you saying it's sort of intentional here to use this time to lay out the values and come together, and then the specifics will come down the line?
Yeah, well, I mean, she's got specifics out there already. But in a convention, what we're doing is making sure that people see. You've heard it in speeches. You've seen it in some of the videos. You're getting a chance to, number one, know her qualifications. Number two, know her story and know who she is. And number three, know what the vision is. And there's a scripture, without vision, the people will perish. We don't want to traffic in just
demonizing. We don't want to traffic in just talking about some people getting ahead. This is the most beautiful thing I've seen, and that's why in my speech I talked about the church that my grandmother attended for 70 years, Bright Hope. It's a way of being, and especially when things feel dark. We've come out of a pandemic. We can't forget that. We experienced collectively the trauma of George Floyd's murder. We have come through world wars. For me, this moment is, as Jim Clyburn said, it's not the most important election, it's the most consequential election. Even something like reproductive freedom, last year I got the best title I've ever had in my life. I've been Secretary of Labor in Delaware, I've been CEO of Berkeley, but I became a grandmother. It's the best thing that has ever happened. I love my kids, but being a grandmother,
My mom said the same thing.
it's just different. And I might not have my granddaughter not right yet. So we're going to fight for these things so that people can be the families that they need and want to be. That they can feel free to go in their doctor's office and have privacy. Things that are freedoms. That's what this is about. I keep saying it's freedom. It's about opportunity. It's also about joy.
Certainly. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate you taking the time and enjoy this last night of this convention. Oh my gosh. All right, Dan, we have so much more stuff on ABC News Live. We're, of course, at the Democratic National Convention, where she mentioned it is joyful. You're seeing a lot of momentum here, and the floor is already full here in Chicago. Lots of anticipation. We'll be right back.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We're approaching the gate now. Ready to go. The house is destroyed on the flag. There's not a tear in it out of it. How important is this label right here mean to USA? Look at your smile. You're fine. Wait, look.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Moore is America's most watched newscast.
Hi, I'm Mandy, and I'm Sabrina, and we're moms. We invest on every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? We love pop culture. So listen to our podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To begin and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen to the ABC News podcast on with 4 Edward R. and see why the new podcast called it the news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News, making your daily start.
That's a part of the story that you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, this is Start Here.
It was so regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Wood.
Something terrible happened to her.
Several suspects.
Always kind of.
Actually, I'm very sick. because we're always doing this. They think we're waving at them.
That's a lot of bucks.
They think we're waving at them.
Where Main Street serves as the beating heart of this small city, so much so that Statesboro has 4.
The thing I love about this town is there's
4 Main Streets.
4 Main Streets. So it's North Main, South Main, East Main, West Main.
So you are right now in the center of town.
This is Main Street.
This is the center of town.
And where problems are settled a lot differently than they are in Washington, D.C.
People are, for the most part, very friendly. They will sit down and have a conversation with you, even if they disagree with you.
And a fair number of people here disagree with Len, because in this deep red era, Len is practically an extinct political species.
Democrats are never going to take over this county.
No. And they're not going to take over most rural counties.
A rural Democrat. Every week at this coffee shop, the local Democrats meet and talk strategy. Len, who's running for county commission here, is also in charge of an initiative to attract rural voters to the state Democratic Party.
Is it hard to make inroads as a Democrat in rural areas?
Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, we're in Statesboro, Georgia, and if you look at Bullitt County down here, we're probably close to 70% that is Republican.
It's a deeply Republican.
Right, yeah, this is a deep Republican area.
You know the knock on Democrats is that they left rural voters behind long ago.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, if you look at this county, at one time it was a Democratic county. Talking to Republicans, they feel within 10 years with the manufacturing jobs that are being
While Democrats are hoping that rural voters can help give them an edge in Georgia, a must-win state, and across the country,
We are in one of the biggest districts right now.
deep pockets of many of these rural areas are still Trump country.
We see a lot of trucks with Trump flags and a lot of Trump flags in the yard. We are likely to look up and visit a city.
But that hasn't stumped some voters, like Robert Hutchinson and her daughter Marie.
Personally, I love to Walz. I think he's great. I think he's was a really smart pick for vice president. I think it's more about personality. I think that's his personality comes across as very open and friendly. I feel like Tim is genuinely a person who has high morals, who's a very respectful person that kind of represents the older style of respectability that I think older voters got used to and that newer voters still want to lean on and believe is the right thing to
Democratic Party knows that flipping any rural part of Georgia is a tall order. Donald Trump got 78% of the vote in Jackson County in 2020.
These are counties that have been like this for a while. They're projects. They are long-term projects. Even though we're spread across the state, most of these communities are agriculture-based. They have issues of either not having population growth or loss in some cases. You have issues of healthcare is a big one right there. And yet translating some of the national policies into what's relatable here in Jackson County, I guess that's our job, but it makes it's a lot easier to do with somebody like Walz.
And Len told us, even when talking with deep red voters here, He believes Democrats shouldn't be afraid to tackle the elephant in the room, Donald Trump.
We've got to punch back, and we've got to punch back on the falsehoods that are told.
They've arrested ethnic media people and directed people that kill people. It's a shame what's happening in that country.
Do you think Harris puts rural America in a way more in play?
Yes.
And why? Because she does not necessarily have a wrong one.
No, she doesn't, but who does? The government does. The government's got the will back. And that way is key.
And took us to see that enthusiasm for ourselves. In a campaign meeting at the home of a fellow county Democrat.
Does Tim Wall play a role in that? You think he changes the dynamic? That might be.
Absolutely. Rural people are very dynamic and personal. But at the same time, they want a community. They want to belong to something. And I think he brings that options to belong. Coaching, teaching, military.
Voters here told us they haven't been this excited for the presidential race in decades.
Getting involved or volunteering.
It wasn't the first time.
I think this is the first time people are getting excited about what can really happen. You know, since Obama, since Obama, that this is the first time that we really feel like change is possible.
But what we lose to this league is if that hope and excitement can translate into votes. And
All right, thanks to Jay O'Brien for that piece. And thank you for streaming with us. I'm Kena Whitworth. Special primetime coverage of the 2024 Democratic National Convention kicks off right here on ABC News Live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. And later, Lindsay Davis is joined by our own David Muir and our entire Powerhouse political team. We hope that you'll check them out. The news never stops. Neither do we. Keep it right here on ABC News Live.
why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. Police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about. The migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
Hey, good morning, America. Good morning, America.
Good morning, America.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in too. I'm in.
I'm in too.
Hi, I'm Mandy. And I'm Sabrina. And we're moms, juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? Really love pop culture. So what happens when being obsessed with pop culture collides with being a mom? You get us. So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
Reporting from Monterey Park, California, I'm Robin Roberts. Wherever the story is, we're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Live reporting, breaking new exclusives. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
party's historic presidential nomination tonight. She'll be addressing millions here in the arena and across this country in her highly anticipated prime time speech. Now, last night we heard from more A-list speakers. We also saw some stellar celebrity performances. Here's just a snippet. So, of course, now it's John Legend and Sheila E. performing Let's Go Crazy with a tribute to the legendary Prince. But the main event belonged to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Harris' running mate, who delivered a passionate and personal appeal to the American people and his own family with a touching reaction from his son.
It took Gwen and I years, but we had access to fertility treatments. When our daughter was born, we named her Hope. Hope is when my entire world. And I want to let you in on how we started a family, because this is a big part about what this election is about. Freedom. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. And boy, do we have the right team.
Well, tonight's theme is For Our Future. The Harris campaign tells ABC News the Vice President will emphasize what she's calling a new way forward and will lay out her vision for the country. She'll focus on her middle-class upbringing, her background as a prosecutor, and how her plan for the nation greatly differs from that of her opponent, former President Donald Trump. ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks and ABC News Jay O'Brien are both with me here inside the United Center. So let's go down there with Jay because he's been on the floor. And Jay, I understand you have a very, very special guest here. Just to note again the historic nature of this evening.
We do, Kate. I'm joined by Martin Luther King III, a civil rights leader, obviously the son of Martin Luther King Jr., civil rights icon. Thank you for joining me, sir. I want to talk to you about the historic nature of tonight. Kamala Harris, only the second black nominee of a major party, the second female nominee of a major party, the first black female nominee. What is your reaction? What do you think? What would your father say? What would your mother think?
First of all, my father and mother would be extraordinarily proud that the party has nominated the second woman, who happens to be a black woman, and an East Asian woman. They also are proud of the fact what she is representing firsthand, she's ultimately eminently qualified as a TA, as a U.S. State Attorney for California, and as a United States Senator, now Vice President. And because she fosters a positive vision. This election is about whether we as a nation move forward, protect, preserve, and expand democracy, or whether we choose to go backward. I believe many people are ready to go forward, and that's the excitement that we're seeing all over our nation, whether it's from young people, which is critically important, or whether it's from seniors.
Tonight's theme will be about her vision for the country, a fight for freedoms. What do you want to hear from her when she talks tonight?
Well, I think I've heard it already. I don't know. I'm very excited to see specifically more what she's going to say. But when we talk about one of the most important things for me is expansion of voting rights to make sure that no one is harbored or hindered from voting. Another thing is about making sure we protect our environment. Another thing is certainly about criminal justice reform. Probably one of the most critical issues is restoring reproductive rights. That's just a few of the things. Obviously, I'm concerned about violence and guns. My dad was killed in 1968. My grandmother was assassinated in 1974. Two people assassinated in my family by guns, and we're still having a discussion about why someone needs an AK-47. I hope to hear all of these in the past, but it's really about bringing America together in a unified way. Doesn't mean that we will agree on every issue, but we must move forward in a positive way.
We've seen former President Trump make some gains with black male voters and make an effort to try to reach out to those voters. What do you make of that when you see that?
Well, I think that maybe there's been some element of gain, but I don't know that what we've heard, meaning some polling numbers showing 20%, I doubt very seriously that that's true. There has been some movement in terms of getting some black voters, But I think this candidacy excites so many people, and I think some of those numbers that they thought they were going to get, I don't think that's going to be the case in this election cycle.
And very quickly, what do you make of the momentum and enthusiasm here? If this wasn't the kind of historic ticket that it is, do you think there would be this level of enthusiasm?
The sad part is no, but what I would say is, we've had a black president, so it's not just that it's a black president. The conditions, the laws that have been passed, meaning the taking away the Voting Rights Act in 2013, stopping history from being taught in 2020, reproductive rights being lost in 2022, affirmative action being lost. So all of these issues, I think, have created an excitement and an interest to say, no, we can't move backward. We have to move forward. And as the Vice President says, when we fight, we win.
Martin Luther King III, thank you very much for your time, sir. We'll send it back to you, K.A.N.
All right, Jay O'Brien, our thanks to you, and Mary Ellen Sparks will be checking in here with you momentarily, but I do want to bring in Washington, D.C. Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal Gurmore. Thank you so much for being here with me. And you sat down right away and you said, I do want to talk about the historic nature of this evening, and then you just listened to that interview, and I mean, it is in the air. It is something that everybody wants to witness and be a part of tonight.
That's exactly right. I mean, she is a groundbreaking candidate in every way, incredibly qualified. She's been a part of the Biden-Harris administration, so has gotten remarkable things done that I think 4 years ago we didn't think were possible. But also, there are so many people who can see themselves in her. If you're middle class, you can see yourself in Kamala Harris. If you worked at a McDonald's, you can see yourself in Kamala Harris. If you are South Asian American like I am, you can see yourself. If you're a woman, you can see yourself. And the same thing with Governor Walz. Here's a guy who comes from a rural red district, is a coach, cares about people, cares about his neighbors, implemented some of the most progressive, fantastic policies in the state of Minnesota as governor. And I think that is a lot of what we are going to hear tonight, is the ability for people to see themselves in this ticket and to know and trust that they will fight forward for us. They will fight for our freedoms. They will fight for the opportunity for everyone to be able to do what they're doing. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, talking about it right now.
You're clearly excited. Look, if we know anything about the Vice President, we've heard her described as cool, calm, and collected, and also as prepared.
That's right.
What are some of the things you think she might be saying?
Well, I think she is going to talk about, obviously, her background. People need to get to know her, so I think she's going to lay some of that out. How did she get to where she is? Why do people think, why should people think that she's qualified? I think she will talk about some of the historic accomplishments of the Biden administration, Biden-Harris administration, including cutting the cost of prescription drugs, capping insulin, those things. And I think that she will talk about her vision forward, because we know that the cost of housing is too high. We know that people are struggling with childcare. We know that people need more investments in taking on climate change, gun reform. These are things that she has already spoken about, but I think she'll weave them together along with abortion rights, codifying abortion rights, codifying voting rights, structural changes that allow for people to know that our freedoms are protected, guaranteed, and that we can pass them on.
And freedom and protecting it is, of course, part of the theme here tonight. And, we talk a lot about issues that are polling really well for voters. And former President Donald Trump is leading the polls in some of the top issues. But when I have conversations here, I think that there's some other issues that aren't showing up in the polling that are a top concern for the voters, especially gun rights and gun control. When you talk to young voters, we know that Gabby Giffords is going to be on stage tonight. That's a story that's always had a soft spot for me. I was a young reporter in Tucson when that happened, and I've followed her story.
I think Maxwell Frost might be on stage too. He's our youngest member of Congress from Florida who came up through the gun reform movement, and so I think we will absolutely hear about that and you heard about it from Tim Walz as well on the campaign trail. But here's somebody, best shot, I think you said this last night, best shot, in the Congress, gun owner, believes in the Second Amendment and believes our kids have to be kept safe. And so I think that will certainly be an issue you'll hear about. I also think that she will be able to talk about just the ability for people to earn a decent wage. I think she
nowhere in the country is the minimum wage high enough. And who helps us get their unions? I think we'll hear about workplace democracy. I think we'll hear about a number of things. It may not be a central theme for the whole thing, but it's all part of what does it take to actually take care of our families? What does it take to be able to put food on the table, have a roof over your head, and fight for your rights? And I think that's the case she'll lay out.
I also want to ask you, noted that you really supported Governor Walz's progressive policies. You are, of course, the chair of the Progressive Caucus. And we have seen protests outside, and we have watched calls for a ceasefire and a hostage release. We know that there's some uncommitted delegates that were having a sit-in because they would really like to see a Palestinian American have the opportunity to take the stage here tonight. I'm really curious as to your thoughts on that. I mean, should they have that opportunity? I know that you had a chance to speak with some of those folks. They're some of your constituents.
Some of them are my constituents. I've been speaking to them. I've been speaking to the campaign as well. Look, I think it was so powerful last night when John and Rachel were on stage talking about Hirsch and the need to get Hirsch back, to get all of the hostages back. I think our hearts all were, and America was united around pain and suffering and the need to get the hostages back. I think the same thing would happen if we put a Palestinian American on the stage tonight to talk about how they've lost hundreds of people, dozens of family members in many cases in Gaza, in the killings in Gaza. And I think that is the unity of pain and grief and commitment to resolving this issue that frankly we need. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have shown us what it means to feel seen. And I think on this issue, we need to make sure our Palestinian American friends also can be seen and can be heard. And so I do wish that we were having a Palestinian American speaker on stage, because I actually think Kamala Harris's candidacy gave us a new opening on this issue and gave us a new opportunity to kind of continue to build the bridges and get all of these voters who are uncommitted because they have very serious concerns about U.S. policy.
And that uncommitted vote was big, and especially in places like Michigan.
Absolutely. And don't forget 2016, Michigan, we only won by 11,000 votes. And there were 200,000 people that voted down ballot but didn't vote top of the ticket. So we have to make sure that that does not happen again in Michigan and in many states. I mean, Georgia is this is one of the top issues for the black community, is a ceasefire and ending the killing in Gaza and getting humanitarian aid in and making sure that we are implementing our domestic policy, our domestic laws, in not continuing to use our funding to kill people in Gaza. So I think these are really important issues. We need to keep working on this. We have been making some progress. I hope we don't take too much of a step back with the sense that some have in the uncommitted movement, that their voices were excluded here. I hope the Vice President, I believe she's going to say something about this. I don't know exactly what that'll be, but I hope she does find a way to speak to the pain and suffering of Palestinian Americans, Muslim Americans across this country who have lost so many people, just as we felt the grief and the pain from hostage families last night on stage.
But you do think it was a mistake to not invite a Palestinian American?
I think it was an opportunity missed, a giant opportunity missed. And but listen, there is, in my mind, it is clear, and I've said this over and over again. Perfection is not on the ballot, but real progress is. And we don't have to agree 100% with any candidate, but we do have to know that we can continue to organize for progress under that candidate. And my belief is that under Donald Trump, there is no progress possible. And at the same time, I think under Kamala Harris, we can continue that work to get to just humanitarian policy in the Middle East and to protect Israeli lives, Palestinian lives. They all matter, and they are equally worthwhile. And we need to be able to continue to show that.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy that you were able to join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I also want to go now to our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, because he has been following the protests, and he has also been following the sit-in as well with these delegates. So, Matt, you just heard from Congresswoman here. We've had a chance to speak with some of these delegates and some of our constituents. What are you saying?
We're seeing virtually the same. They've shown some significant commitment, these uncommitted delegates,
sitting outside in the hot sun for an hour 15 or 16 all day, trying to stick to their guns, saying, listen, just as the congressperson said, even Phil Goldberg Collins told us earlier today, the family of the hostage held in Gaza, First Goldberg Collins, that they would like to see a representative of the Palestinian people, a Palestinian American or an Arab American, speak, that there should be some parity, and that's specifically what the folks outside and uncommitted are asking for. They want to see some sort of movement towards that. At this point, it does not appear likely. It doesn't seem that organizers are going to have to change the schedule at this point to have a Palestinian American speaker. But I think they are looking to see what the vice president can offer them in terms of a little bit more sensitivity than we see perhaps from President Biden in terms of the Palestinians. What they are looking for is an imposed ceasefire, as they're saying, an immediate ceasefire, and for the U.S. to impose an arms embargo on Israel, which is probably not going to happen under any administration. And I think that's what you've been hearing from the crowds at these mostly pro-Palestinian protests. That's been the general tenor of the protests over the past several days. You can see them behind me congregating, a few journalists in the way, but their flags over there, they're holding a press conference. Right now, they're about to rally. And that's going to last for about an hour of speeches and chants, and then they're going to march again towards the convention center. And as we have been seeing, K.A.N, day after day here, there is a massive police presence, and these bicycle officers are going to form what is basically a rolling human barricade to pen those protesters in, both for the security of the protesters, according to police, and to ensure that nothing gets out of hand. It did the first couple of days, but yesterday there was a very large and very peaceful protest. They're hoping to replicate that again today. But again, these are voters, K.A.N, that say they don't want to have to vote for Donald Trump. They don't want to, quote-unquote, throw their vote for Joe's side of the Green Party. But they feel that they are not being heard by Vice President Harris and the Democratic Party right now. Certainly not the Biden administration. K.A.N.
All right, Matt Gavin, thanks to you, and thank you so much for giving us certainly a true view of what's going on out there. We appreciate it, as always. We have a lot more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live for the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Please stay with us.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas. The scene of a horrific mass shooting. ABC News Live is right there at that.
The scene of that damage just looks like in Ukraine.
Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey. This tornado tore through this little town. The most devastating disaster of the life. In Iceland,
Lines from southern Israel, outside of Gaza Strip.
here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Wherever the story is, wherever the story is, wherever the story is, we're going to take you there.
We're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
We're streaming ABC News Live. ABC News Live. Streaming free. One streaming news. It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
Something terrible happened to her.
Several suspects.
All these kinds of things.
Her last hour on the search was horrific.
Police will find out what happened.
And this ends the hunt for a killer. They both want to be the next president. With father, Kamala Harris.
We will soon be a great nation again.
The ABC News presidential debate, moderated by David Moore and Rosie Davis, Tuesday, September 10th, live on ABC, and streaming on ABC News Live, Hulu, and Disney Plus. The ABC News presidential debate.
Stronger together. It's not just a lesson from our history. It's not just a slogan for our campaign. It's a guiding principle for the country we've
we've always been and the future we're going to build. And so, my friends, it is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
That, of course, was Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton at the 2016 Democratic National Convention, making history as the first female candidate at the top of a presidential ticket. She famously lost the election to Donald Trump later that year, despite winning the popular vote, something that also happened in 1824, 1876, 1888, and the year 2000. Welcome back, everybody. You're watching ABC News Live special coverage of Day 4 of the Democratic National Convention. And I'm very excited. I finally get to see our political director and Washington Bureau Chief, Rick Klein. I'm so happy to have you here with me.
Thanks. I thought that was a trivia question. What are the years that the popular vote and the electoral college didn't line up? That would have been a good one.
For you.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I feel like you're the one guy, that and baseball stats. So, listen, Rick, let's talk a little bit about what you sort of called the Kamala Harris reintroduction that we're seeing, and really showing herself to this country. We think that everyone knows exactly who she is and knows her story, but that's not really true. How much weight does this speech have tonight?
It's fascinating to me because you're right. In some level, like, oh, everyone knows the Vice President of the United States, but a lot of people had no opinion of her going into the last couple of weeks, and you've seen the numbers turn around, which is hard to do in politics in 2024. Tonight is the biggest manifestation of that. This is the chance to focus on her in particular. This isn't about the Obamas. This isn't about the Clintons. This isn't about Joe Biden. It isn't even about Tim Walz. It is about Kamala Harris, the person. And we've seen the campaign start to talk about her biography in more compelling ways. I never knew she worked at McDonald's or earlier in life, right? We've talked about her upbringing, understanding how middle-class people being raised by a single mom with their second on a ticket, and I think this is she's going to have to speak to an enormous audience about what that is.
And what are you anticipating in terms of the polling aftermath, right? Do you think there's going to be a convention? Not because they're tight, but she's leading in some places. But I also find it really fascinating when you look at the issues that matter the most to Americans. Donald Trump is leading in that area.
And here's the question is that, conventions are a big advertisement for a campaign. Usually it's generally pretty positive coverage. And again, it looks like a sugar high retrospective. And it might be that in the next round of polling, the next week or so, you have her seeing numbers she's never seen before. That's it. She's already tapped into something powerful. You can see on the screen now, our 538 polling in 6 of the 7 battlegrounds. Joe Biden was trailing all 7 of them 4 or 5 weeks ago. So that is an enormous shift. Is there more that she can eat into? And then how permanent it is. Because this is now still the kind of honeymoon period. It's been a long one by political standards. 5 weeks since she became a candidate, and she still is enjoying the period of all that forever. We have to debate in a couple of weeks. She's going to go through interviews about policy. Donald Trump is going to get more traction for his attacks, presumably. So the question is how much is vulnerable, because whatever you build up now might be something you have to kind of play defense around for the remainder of the campaign.
And then we also have the wild card of RFK Jr. Here, right? So it sounds like he's going to step down tomorrow. Does he endorse Donald Trump? And then how much does that change the polls? Because I sort of heard your assessment here that it's perhaps true that a lot of his supporters maybe went over to the Harris wall side when she was at the top of the ticket, no longer Joe Biden. Do you think that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance can pick up the rest?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, is that he was polling in double digits up until a couple of weeks ago, and now he's around 5% in polls. That was our latest poll. And so, yes, some people that just were parking their vote there went to Harris. So it may be that she's already picked up what she can. Add to that the fact that there's a lot of overlap between her position or his positions and Donald Trump's positions, and add to that the fact that Republicans are more likely to have a positive opinion of him. But the other factor, Bobby Kennedy, of course, is a huge name in Democratic politics. He's known for his environmental advocacy for a long time. It isn't an exact fit, and you can't transfer it 1 to 1, but remember how close this election is likely to be. This number strikes me. 34% of Kennedy's supporters say they would not support either Harris or Trump if they were forced to. We kind of forced the question. A third of them still say, wait a second, I still want to shop around. Now, it's possible that they go, most of them go to Trump, but Harris may get some as well. So I think it's a fascinating late development to see this twist, if it is indeed the case that he drops out and endorses how many people listen to him. Does it open up a lane for other third-party candidates who might be on the ballot?
And it's interesting because we're also sort of hearing the same thing from the protesters that Matt Gutman's out there talking about. They're saying, I don't want to waste my vote by voting uncommitted. but that's what I'll do if I don't have a choice, but they may go her way.
Yeah, this was a much bigger issue when Joe Biden was a candidate.
Yeah.
The uncommitted storyline would be a bigger deal behind us, I guarantee it, if Biden was still in the race. As it is, it's kind of been a smaller piece of the story so far this week.
All right, Rick Klein, I'm so happy to finally get to see you. Thank you for being here. All right, we have so much more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Stay with us, everybody. We've got a lot to talk about.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning.
To catch you up with what happened overnight, recent riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about, the migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
The stories that shape your world, that shape your life. Dramatic, stunning, empowering, jaw-dropping. The most powerful stories of our time. Nightline, on right after Kimmel and streaming on Hulu. With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast across all of television. Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
This is ABC News Live.
Families.
On the ground in Ukraine.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Reporting from the side of the 2024 Republican National Convention, I'm Kira Phillips. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
All right, you're watching ABC News Live special coverage of Day 4 of the Democratic National Convention, and it's already getting full down there on the floor. People are very excited. I want to bring in our conservative columnist and former Trump administration official Sarah Isker, as well as ABC News contributor and president of Next Gen America, Christina Ramirez. Ladies, I'm so happy to have you both here with us. And so, Christina, I want to talk to you here. Look, we know that she's going to give her speech tonight. It's certainly going to be a historic night. But what we're hearing a lot about today, specifically, is the future of America, protecting the freedoms and what that means for the youth, the young vote. This, of course, is your area of expertise. And I think when we talk about the issues, we're talking about the issues that are polling the highest and most important to Americans, and Donald Trump is doing better in those areas. But Justice Jones told me the other day, he said, you know what I'm hearing from college students? It's about gun reform. This is to young Americans. What do you hear?
So, this is where young people differ a little bit from older generations. Their top issues are economy, abortion, protecting basic civil rights, especially for the LGBTQ community, and climate change, because they're going to inherit the consequences of what happens on those issues, and especially for a lot of young people of reproductive age. We jokingly say that in 2022, abortion was a top issue for young women. It took about 9 months for it to become a top issue for young men, and so that is pushed to the forefront. But this is the first election in my track record of organizing and moving young people that young people are critical voting bloc for Harris to win this election.
And she's making a huge try to get them here. We even have like an influencer stage down there. I mean, what are you hearing about that?
Yeah, so influencers are now a huge part of the ecosystem to get these people to turn out. So we've got 200 influencers that own spot, content creators that are here at the DNC helping amplify the message to reach millions of people online, especially young people that may be their main news source for this election.
Interesting. And Sarah Isker, to you, we had some conversations during the Republican National Convention where I heard, this next generation might actually be the most conservative generation yet. And I'm also hearing from Olivia Rubin, our investigative reporter, that what Republicans are saying right now is that, sure, there's joy and momentum. That doesn't feed your family. That doesn't put food on the table.
Well, hopefully the last 6 weeks or so has been a big warning sign of what polls are good for and what they're not for. Because what we saw in June, of course, was that the Democratic Party, the Biden ticket, was bleeding young people. In fact, Trump was becoming tied within the margin of error with these young voters. Then Harris comes on the top of the ticket, and we see again a big shift in young voters back to the Harris ticket. What I think is interesting, what Christina said is exactly right. The economy is still the #1 issue for young voters. Harris has yet to really roll out her economic vision for the country. We, of course, saw her plan on price fixing related to root causes for inflation that has been largely panned by economists. I'll be curious to see how she'll land some of these policy issues for young voters, because Christina's exactly right. If young voters continue to trend towards Republicans and toward the Trump ticket, Harris cannot win this race.
Absolutely. It is a crucial voting bloc. There's no question about it. Sarah is here. Christina Ramirez. Our thanks to both of you. And we have a lot more special coverage ahead here from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Everybody, please stay with us. As again, you can see the floor is packed. You're seeing a lot of whites on the floor tonight. A big support, of course, for women. We'll be right back.
It's a take to be the most watched newscaster in America.
We're approaching the gate now. Militants came in from 4 or 5 directions. So you have a couple of ready to go. The house is destroyed. The flag is going to tear him out of gold. How important is this thing right here for the USA? Look at your smile. You're proud of it. Wait, look. Where are you? Where are you? Ismael? David. Yes. I'm David York. You do.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Moore is America's most watched newscast. Whenever news breaks,
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
They're rolling forward. This tornado tore through this town.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
From the scene of activity,
ABC News Live everywhere.
In Eisbron, Wisconsin.
On the 2024 campaign trail,
Here at 10 Downing Street,
wherever the story is,
We're going to take you there.
you're streaming
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning. To catch you up with what happened overnight, police in riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about, the migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzz, hill, and baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news.